This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
It is 5 o'clock here on your Tuesday. Good morning to you. I'm Lauren Casey.
And I'm Meredith Barrick. Here's what's making headlines on this June 9th. Signs and chants calling to defund the police during protests in Indianapolis and nationwide. We'll explain what that means and what exactly they're asking for.
More Hoosiers getting licensed to carry guns. Call 6 Investigates shows us how the coronavirus outbreak and these protests could be playing a part.
And a local organization helping thousands of kids with clothes and school supplies is in need of a new building after theirs was sold. What's next for the nonprofit and how you can help? Here at 5 o'clock, we need to check in with meteorologist Todd Clausen for our Storm Team 6 forecast.
That's right, Todd. Thanks for joining us in studio today. We know it's kind of a busy day in the weather department, but right now things are quiet.
Yeah, you know, this is the quiet part of our day. That is the good news. Once we get to the afternoon, that's when we run into a lot more in the way of issues in the sense of wind and the potential for strong to severe storms. 60s and 70s right now. 72 in Indy, 74 in Bloomington, and 73 currently as you make your way into the Muncie area. This wind will really start to kick in as the day progresses. So the western half of the state under the wind advisory, no advisory off to the east, but even if you're not in the advisory, your winds are going to increase as the day progresses as well. The one thing we don't have to deal with this morning, though, is any rainfall. The high thin clouds are starting to make their way into the area. Here is what is left of Cristobal that continues to make its way up through Missouri. We're on the eastern side of this system, and what that means for us is less in the way of the heavy rain and the flooding potential, but it's the outer bands on the eastern edge of these tropical systems that have the best potential to produce some severe weather, including some brief isolated tornadoes that will spin up. So that is unfortunately in the forecast for the day today. Those storms again will build in this afternoon. We'll use TrueCast to time them out for you hour by hour coming up in just a few minutes. Lauren.
Todd, thanks. Let's take a look at traffic as you're heading out on the roads. Here's a look right now on the north side at 465 and Michigan Road, where things are moving along up to speed. Some headlights out that way, so it isn't super quiet. We'll continue to keep you updated if there are any crashes or delays, but right now at this early hour, everything around the metro area is traveling up to speed.
New overnight, a woman is dead after a shooting on Indy's northwest side. This all happened around 12:30 a.m. at a home on West 33rd Street near the I-65 and Dr. MLK Jr. Street interchange. Police found the victim inside and pronounced her dead at the scene. A man has been taken into custody as a suspect. Investigators believe the shooting was a domestic-related incident. After an 11th day of protests in downtown Indianapolis, an investigation is underway after protesters were hit by a van in Monument Circle last night. Video from the scene shows the van running into at least 3 protesters. None of them were hurt. Metro police say they were told protesters may have thrown something or beat the van, though the video does not show that. Police say the driver of the van is cooperating with the investigation.
The time now, 5:03. Protesters across the country are calling on cities to defund the police. What does that mean? How could this impact you? Our Alyssa Donovan is joining us live this morning with more answers. Alyssa, good morning.
Good morning, Lauren. And it really depends on who you talk to, but many of the protesters that we've spoken with about this topic say it's not about completely eliminating the police department, but rather reallocating funds to other areas of city services. And the funding, according to those in favor of the idea, would then be put towards different community needs, allowing cities to spend more on what communities across the U.S. need, like addressing mental health issues and homelessness, which could help reduce crime. On Sunday, a majority of Minneapolis's city council members agreed that they would be defunding the city's police department. Specific details have not come out on what that would look like.
We've been pouring more and more resources into our police forces for 30, 40, 50 years, and we're not any safer than we were before.
Indianapolis City County Councilor Allie Brown says she's received close to about 400 emails over the past 4 days about defunding the Indianapolis Metro Police Department. The council spokeswoman, Angela Plank, sent RTV6 a statement saying, in part, the council will be taking a look at their budget in August, reviewing all public safety spending in public hearings. Reporting live, Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
Alyssa, thank you. Call 6 Investigates has uncovered new numbers that show more Hoosiers are getting licensed to carry a gun. In the first quarter of 2020, Indiana State Police approved 16,020 gun licenses. That's a 20% increase compared to the same time period last year. year, and a 35% increase compared to the last part of 2019. Experts say uncertainty surrounding COVID-19 is a big factor. Gun stores have also seen sales spike in the last few weeks following vandalism and burglaries of downtown businesses. Guy Relford says his training class on Indiana gun laws is sold out.
And we sold it out in about 36 hours, and so it went really fast. It was a bit of a surprise, but I think it fits directly in with the topic, Kara, and that is that people really not only want to have the ability to defend themselves, but want to understand what the rules are. They want to stay on the right side of the law.
The group Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America is urging training for anyone with a gun. In a statement, they tell us, quote, "The reality is whenever guns are present, the risk of gun violence, including unintentional shootings, is too. Plus, the increase in gun sales not only makes the gun lobby richer, but it also raises concerns about children who are in the homes where these guns are all too often unsecured, as well as in the homes of domestic abuse." Here at 5:06, thousands of mourners gathered in Houston to pay their respects to George Floyd, whose death at the hands of police sparked protests around the world.
This public memorial was held at the Floyd Family Church. It was brought together civil rights activists like Reverend Al Sharpton, as well as Floyd's family, and members who spoke to the crowd there. They all shared stories of hope that Floyd's legacy will make a lasting change.
And I tell you what, if he was told he would have to sacrifice his life to bring the world together, and I knowing he would have did it.
Well, a final private funeral service will be held there in Houston later today. You can watch that funeral live today. That'll be here on RTV6.
Democrats in Washington are leading a push for police and justice reform. After holding a moment of silence for Floyd, leaders from the House, Senate, and Congressional Black Caucus announced legislation of federal crackdowns on police practices across the U.S. It includes a ban on chokeholds, restrictions on some military-grade equipment for law enforcement, racial bias training, and the creation of a National Police Misconduct Registry. The legislation is expected to face strong resistance from Republicans and police unions.
The Indianapolis City County Council is also making a declaration at their meeting. This happened last night. The council unanimously agreed to declare racism as a public health crisis here in our city. Leaders also moved forward with some other projects. They did give final approval to build a new family center at Broad Ripple Park. When we last talked to the Parks Department about this back in March, the plans would include a gym, track, fitness area, and also primary health care facilities. Some residents tried to fight the new center, arguing that there are other locations that could be used for a clinic. According to Indy Parks, that facility will have a partnership with Community Help, which will help to fund the project. The City County Council also gave the go-ahead for the distribution of $76 million of coronavirus relief funding. $20 million of that money will go towards the contact testing and tracing. $15 million will go towards rental assistance for people who are impacted economically by COVID-19, and $3 million will pay for buying and distributing face masks. $1.8 million will help support food agencies. You can find more details on all of those plans. They're right now at our website, theindychannel.com.
A local nonprofit that helps thousands of Hoosier kids needs your help this morning. The Assistance League of Indianapolis can no longer operate in the building they're in. Our Kelsey Anderson joins us this morning with the details on how you could potentially help.
The Assistance League of Indianapolis serves more than 3,500 kids every single year, giving them hygiene kits, clothes, shoes, and coats. But now they need a new space to live, and they're asking for your help. Right now, the nonprofit operates out of Forest Manor Professional Development Center. Recently, the building was sold to another nonprofit. The new owner offered the ALI a space to use, but they say it just isn't big enough for everything they need. They have several different programs: Alley Bears, Alley Friends, Assault Survival Kits, and their biggest program, Operation School Bell. In the program, they serve thousands of kids, helping them to have new clothes and hygiene products every year.
It's just very important. I know that this ministry will be needed even more after this virus. I think it's just very important that these kids feel really good about themselves when they have new clothes.
When the kids come in to get their new clothes, they get to shop one-on-one with a volunteer and make sure all the clothes fit and they are styles they like. They are looking for a space approximately 12 to 15,000 square feet to operate in. If you know of a place like that they can utilize, head over to theindychannel.com for information on how to reach them. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
All right, thank you there, Kelsey. The time is 5:09. It's a Storm Team 6 alert day. There's not a whole lot going on right now. We're really in alert mode for what's going to come later on this afternoon. And to prepare you for that so you're not caught off guard, because we're going to be dealing with wind, and we're also going to be dealing with the potential for some severe weather, including the threat of some tornadoes. So everybody deals with the winds. Gusts could be up to about 50 miles per hour. This evening is when the storms come in, or mid-afternoon. And as those storms roll through, a few brief isolated tornadoes will be a possibility. Here's radar with the clouds right now. You see the clouds are increasing. Here is what's left of Cristobal that continues to make its way to the north. We'll be getting these outer bands coming through central Indiana, and that's what's going to give us the potential of that severe weather. A good chunk of the area under the slight risk for severe storms. We'll detail the threat and show you the timeline of the storms using TrueCast coming up in just a few minutes. But right now, it's time to take a break. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
The Genetic Detective, new ABC Tonight.
Welcome back. We're keeping a close eye on traffic here at 513. This is I-70 near the Sam Jones Expressway, where traffic moving westbound is traveling up to speed. Eastbound side is quiet. That's because those lanes are still closed between the Ronald Reagan Parkway into the South Split downtown for a major INDOT construction project. You can take the collector ramp to 465 as a detour in that area. If you're traveling eastbound from the west side, we'll continue to monitor your roads this Tuesday and keep you updated.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic from the Indiana State Department of Health. 14 more deaths and 244 new COVID-19 cases have been confirmed. More than 2,100 Hoosiers have died from the virus. More than 309,000 people have been tested, 37,623 of which came back positive. The BMV is beginning to reopen amid the coronavirus outbreak. Starting Monday next week, the BMV will resume walk-in service. You will be able to complete all transactions except the driving skills exam. A limited number of people will be allowed inside at a time, and customers are encouraged to wear a mask.
Well, the coronavirus has infected more than 1.9 million Americans over the past few months, according to Johns Hopkins University. And as John Lawrence reports, some states are seeing a new spike in cases.
New York City starting to move forward.
We're not out of the woods, but we are on the other side, certainly.
The Big Apple in phase 1 of the reopening process after months of COVID-19 restrictions.
Stay away from people who are in a vulnerable population until you take a test and you know that you're not infected.
22 states, the ones here in red and orange, are seeing a jump in new cases. Among them, Florida, which saw an increase of about 46% over the past week, just as most of the state entered its second reopening phase. The lifting of social distancing restrictions and the nationwide police brutality protests are likely factors in the increase of infections.
COVID-19 is going to be here for a little bit. Hopefully we'll get a vaccine, and then, our scientists deal with it, but the people need to deal with this.
One thing that's likely not a factor: people who are not showing symptoms. The World Health Organization now says it's rare for someone who's asymptomatic to infect others, and that discovery might make a difference.
It gives contact tracers a better sense of who to focus on to make sure that the right people are getting isolated and the right contacts are also getting quarantined.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Dunkin' says it will be adding 25,000 jobs as restaurants start to reopen in the U.S. The breakfast and coffee chain announced that its franchisees are looking to fill a range of positions, including management roles. Dunkin' launched an ad campaign on Monday to support recruiting efforts. It is also partnering with Southern New Hampshire University, an online education program for employees.
Well, after drenching the South, the Midwest is expected to see the effects of Tropical Storm Cristobal next. Forecasters say as early as today, Cristobal could meet another storm system coming in from the Rocky Mountains. The two are expected to form a cyclone, dumping heavy rain and strong winds over the middle of the country. The National Weather Service says gusty winds could reach Iowa, Minnesota, and South Dakota and pose a wildfire threat in those states. Okay, Todd, is this going to impact our weather here in central Indiana? I know we may have some storms later today.
Yeah, certainly it is. You have to go back to 2015 for a tropical system to impact central Indiana. Indiana in the month of June. So it doesn't happen very often this early in the year that we get impacted by these tropical systems. You mentioned the wind, Lauren. It's going to be windy for us outside of any thunderstorms. So that's just a general blanket statement. Everybody's going to be dealing with the wind here throughout the day today, and it'll pick up as the day goes on. It's warm. It's very muggy today. And then we get to the storm threat, which will be during the afternoon and evening hours. And within those storms, you can get even stronger winds and the possibility of a few isolated tornadoes. So as we go throughout the afternoon hours, watch how these wind gusts kind of pick up throughout the course of the afternoon and evening hours. They're probably a little bit stronger the further west you are. That's where the wind advisory is in place. You're also a little closer to the center of the storm that is going to be passing kind of right on the Illinois-Iowa border throughout the day today. And then even into the overnight hours, the winds will be an issue for us. They'll be gusting up to 40, maybe even 50 miles per hour as this system slowly makes its way to the north. Temperatures right now this morning are sitting in the 70s, and there's no real big issues for you here this morning. Everything's kind of noon hour onward in this forecast. 71 is the current temperature in Greenwood. Zionsville's at 73. Martinsville sitting at 70 with just these increasing high thin clouds that are starting to make their way into the area right now. But here is that center of circulation. It's just south of St. Louis. It's going to make its way up again towards Rockford, Illinois. And it's these outer bands that are going to lift through central Indiana later on this afternoon. Here's how it looks for you on TrueCast. It's going to kind of be isolated bands of heavier rain moving through. So it's within these isolated stronger storms that there will be the possibility of a quick, brief tornado that could spin up. We're not talking about those supercell tornadoes that are going to be on the ground for a long period of time, but a tornado is a tornado, right? So even if it briefly touches down, could cause some damage. So be aware of that. And of course, we'll be here with you throughout the entire day, letting you know if any warnings do get issued. And then the severe threat should diminish once we get towards late evening, and it shouldn't be an issue for us overnight, even though there could be a few showers and storms that will linger. So as we work our way throughout the course of the day today, the wind threat is going to be high. The tornado threat probably at a medium level. Not too concerned about hail or the potential for flooding as these storms will make their way through. We're going to avoid the heavy rainfall. And then tomorrow there's another round of showers and storms that'll go through. And this is going to be a cold front that pushes through. And once that goes through Wednesday afternoon, it ushers in a very, very nice stretch of weather Thursday all the way into next week with cooler temperatures, lower humidity, and lots of sunshine. But again, today, especially this afternoon and evening, Lauren, could be very active here across the area.
All right, good to keep in mind, Todd. Thank you. Let's take a look right now at traffic. And you said it is quiet this morning weather-wise for your commute, and it's pretty quiet here north of downtown. I-65 and 30th Street traffic's moving along just fine northbound and southbound. No delays to slow you down.
President Trump is starting to travel the country again to campaign for his re-election. On Thursday, he'll be in Dallas, Texas for a fundraising event. Rallies are expected to resume in the next 2 weeks, but Trump's political advisors say they have yet to say where. His campaign has also not commented on any coronavirus safety protocols that will be in place. Last week, President Trump pulled the Republican National Convention from North Carolina. He disagreed with the governor's call for crowd restrictions and a face covering requirement.
It is 5:20. Prince Andrew is responding after the U.S. Department of Justice requested an interview with him as part of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Prince Andrew's lawyers say that he offered his assistance as a witness multiple times, but the U.S. attorney argues, saying that the prince has provided zero cooperation. Federal prosecutors in New York have since filed a mutual legal assistance request to his home office in the U.K. Those are typically only used in criminal cases. The prince issued a statement saying the request would be disappointing. One woman tied to Epstein claims that she was forced to have sex with the prince several times when she was underage. Prince Andrew strongly denies those claims.
A $1 million treasure chest has been discovered in the Rocky Mountains. Why a collector decided to hide the treasure in the first place after the break. A $1 million treasure hidden in the Rocky Mountains has been found. It was hidden there by an art and antiques collector, Forrest Fenn. He created the treasure hunt to inspire people to explore nature and give hope to those affected by the Great Recession. Fenn left clues to its location in a poem published in his 2010 autobiography. He announced that the chest has been found The person who found it wishes to stay anonymous. I don't blame him. Then estimates that up to 350,000 people from all over the world hunted for that treasure. And unfortunately, I believe a handful of people actually died while looking for it. So people did go to some pretty great lengths to try to find that treasure chest.
Wonder if it's real treasure or those chocolate gold coins.
Oh, wouldn't that be quite the surprise? And I guess they'd probably be melted by now if they've been sitting there for about 10 years.
Either that or those little plastic ones that you pick up and you expect to be heavy and you're like, what? This is really light. So, all right. A lot going on in the weather department here today. It's going to be windy for everybody, even though half the state's only under the wind advisory. No matter whether you're under the advisory or not, you're going to see very windy conditions pick up throughout the afternoon and then into the overnight hours. It's actually pretty quiet right now, though. Not a whole lot going on, but that wind picks up throughout the day, and then we'll start to see the rain make its way into the area in the form of showers and storms. You can see on our timeline here, the rain really picks up in coverage as we get into the peak heating of the day, and some of these storms could be strong to severe.
Todd, thank you. A major change coming to IMPD. Ahead on Good Morning Indiana, the mayor promising to update the department's use of force policy. The response from protesters coming up.
Today at 10 on RTV6. This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
As marches against police brutality continue, calls to defund the police are growing louder. Now at 5:30, we're working for you to break down the reason behind some of those calls and what that could mean for you. But before we get to our top stories today, it is a Storm Team 6 alert day. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Casey.
And I'm Meredith Barrick. Meteorologist Todd Clausen joining us this morning. Todd, we have some storms headed our way, but we're not going to see them until this afternoon.
Yeah, you know, everything's really this afternoon. We're kind of just ramping things up here this morning in preparation for those storms to come in. And outside of those storms, we're looking at very strong wind gusts. So it's quiet right now on Storm Team 6 radar. That won't be the case later on this afternoon. The clouds are increasing, and if you haven't walked out the door yet this morning, compared to last night, the humidity has come up, and temperatures right now are sitting in the 70s. But here's Cristobal right now making its way towards St. Louis. The center of the storm, the heavy rainfall, is going to pass off to our west, but we are going to start to get some of these bands lifting through, and it's the eastern side of tropical systems and those bands that often spin up the tornadoes with the potential of severe weather, and that's where we find ourselves here throughout the course of the day today, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center has most of central Indiana under the slight risk for severe weather. There's a little sliver there off towards the east as you get a little further away from the center of the storm. That's just under the marginal risk, but everybody here in central Indiana, no matter where you're watching from this morning, will have the potential mainly mid to late afternoon into the evening hours of seeing the severe weather. This morning it's pretty quiet with just increasing clouds with increasing winds. Sustained winds later on this afternoon about 20-25 miles per hour, but look for some gusts outside of those storms, Lauren, getting all the way up to 40 to maybe even 50 miles per hour.
All right, Todd, thank you so much. Here is a look right now at traffic south of I-465. This is at I-65 to south of that interchange. A view here near Edgewood Avenue. You can see traffic on 65 moving northbound and southbound is picking up at this early hour. No delays to slow you down.
New overnight, a woman is dead after a shooting on Indy's northwest side. It happened around 12:30 this morning at a home on West 33rd Street near I-65. Police found the victim inside and pronounced her dead at the scene. This morning, police say they've taken a man into custody as a suspect. Investigators believe the shooting was a domestic-related incident.
This morning, Indianapolis police are investigating an incident that happened Monday night during a protest on Monument Circle. Several protesters struck by a minivan as they gathered for an 11th straight day. Here's how one witness described the event.
Two other cars were coming down the circle, a blue Chevy and then also a gray Equinox. While the blue Chevy slowed down and attempted to listen, the gray Equinox sped up and ran through the crowd, sending protesters spilling over the hood.
So we did reach out to IMPD, and here's what they say happened. Around 8:15, a van was driving on the circle, and they believe protesters may have thrown something or beat on the car, breaking a window or two. At that point, the van drove through the crowd, and a handful of protesters fell off the front of the vehicle. They do not appear to be hurt. The driver is cooperating, and two people are being questioned in this case. Whenever we know more about what happened with this incident, we're going to bring you more on air and online. At 5:33, IMPD says there were no arrests for curfew violations over the weekend, but formal charges have been filed against 5 more Indiana residents after clashes with police during the protests 2 weeks ago. Meredith Gable is accused of defacing the Soldiers and Sailors Monument after it had been cleaned of graffiti. Jillian Huff is accused of nearly striking an officer with her car. Zachary Kelly, Jamie Bundy, and Randall Whited are all charged with resisting law enforcement. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears says he will not file charges against 41 non-violent protesters who were previously arrested. The other arrests will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
Protesters across the country are calling on cities to defund the police, but what does that mean and how could it impact you? Our Alyssa Donovan is live this morning with those answers. Alyssa.
Good morning. We spoke with an expert who says calls across the country to defund the police departments does not mean that police would be eliminated completely, but rather the message is to cut police budgets and put that funding into other programming across cities. Now, activists in favor of the idea want that money to go towards mental health services, housing and education, and expanding community mediation programs. Last weekend, a majority of Minneapolis' city council members agreed they would defund their city's police department. Specific details have not come out on what that would look like.
This is about imagining what a public safety effort looks like that's community-led.
Here in Indianapolis, City County Councilor Allie Brown told RTV6 she has received close to 400 emails this week about defunding the Indianapolis Metro Police Department. The City County Council did send a statement to RTV saying in part that the council will be reviewing public safety spending sometime in August when they review their complete budget, and they'll be reviewing that during public hearings that you would be welcome to. Reporting live, Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
All right, Alyssa, thank you. It is 5:35. The city of Indianapolis announcing it's revising the current use of force policy. For the first time, the policy will be reviewed by citizens. Now, that's just one of the changes made following the nearly 2 weeks of protests against police brutality and the deaths of George Floyd and Dre'Jon Reed here locally. Those have rocked the city and also the nation. Last updated in 2016, Mayor Joe Hogsett says IMPD's use of force policy will be based on a California model.
Not only long overdue, but frankly are in keeping with standard best practices in other communities throughout the country.
Though not everyone is satisfied with the proposed changes, the African American Coalition of Indianapolis is calling for more civilian oversight and transparency. They're also calling for a civilian majority on their use of force review board to ensure accountability. Mayor Hogsett says he's opening to considering those requests in the future, but feels the changes that they're making now are significant. We do have a complete draft of the updated use of force policy on the RTV6 app. The IMPD General Orders Committee is expected to vote on the proposal this week. Beginning July 6th, IMPD will start training officers on the new policy.
The Indianapolis City County Council is also making a declaration at their meeting last night. The council unanimously agreed to declare racism a public health crisis in the city. The proposal calls for a review of city policies to eliminate implicit and explicit racial bias. Public health officials say African Americans have less access to quality health care, healthy food choices, and mental health services. Mayor Joe Hogsett said on Monday these disparities have been highlighted during the COVID-19 pandemic.
At 5:36, a local nonprofit that helps thousands of Hoosier kids needs your help this morning. The Assistance League of Indianapolis can no longer operate in their building. So our Kelsey Anderson is joining us this morning with the details on how you can potentially help them out.
The Assistance League of Indianapolis serves more than 3,500 kids every single year, giving them hygiene kits, clothes, shoes, and coats. But now they need a new space to live, and they're asking for your help.
We just love these kids. We want to make a difference in their lives.
Through their program, Operation School Bell, the Assistance League of Indianapolis helps to make thousands of kids feel confident at school.
We provide necessary school clothing for the children so that they can be at school learning instead of being sent home because they don't have the required clothing. They're getting books, they're getting hygiene Ziploc bags that contain shampoo, bar soap, deodorant.
The kids aren't just getting a bag of clothes, they are getting a one-on-one shopping experience with volunteers.
They have choices. It's not the same merchandise. There's lots of different colors here that you can see, and it is their choice that they make, which is very empowering for those children.
ALI has been serving kids in Indy for 36 years. For more than 30 years, they operated out of the old Coca-Cola building and then at Forest Manor Professional Development Center. Now, they find themselves having to move once again.
And the building has sold to another nonprofit, and unfortunately, there's not enough room here for us to deliver our programs as we have in the past.
The new owner of the building did offer the ALI a space in the building, but they say it's just not big enough for all of their programs. On top of all of the children they serve, they also serve the elderly and assault survivors. All of their programs would be housed in their new location.
We need a new place to live, and we would really like to be there like forever.
They are looking for approximately 12 to 15,000 square feet of space to operate in. If you know of a place like that that they can utilize, head over to the IndyChannel.com for information on how to reach them. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
All right, thank you there, Kelsey. It is a Storm Team 6 alert day as we're going to be dealing with a very windy day. I know it's not super windy right now, but it's going to pick up as the day progresses. And really this afternoon, all the way into the evening hours, flags, no matter where you are going to be fully extended here across central Indiana. Some of these wind gusts could get up to 40 miles per hour. And the reason why we're going to be dealing with these wind gusts is the remnants of Cristobal is making its way through the area. Here's the center of low pressure just south of St. Louis. All the heavy rainfall on the western side of this system. We'll be dealing with these feeder bands coming through, but it's those feeder bands that will give us the potential of seeing an isolated tornado or two. So the wind is high for everybody today, even outside of those thunderstorms. Tornado threat elevated. We'll talk more about these threats for you in detail coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues. The time now is 5:40. Stay with us. We're back in just a few minutes.
Welcome back. It is 5:43. Here's a live look right now at traffic through the downtown area. It's traveling up to speed here. Look at I-65, view near St. Clair Street. We'll keep you updated if there are any crashes or delays to slow down your Tuesday commute.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus impact on Hoosier lives. The State Department of Health is reporting 14 new deaths related to COVID-19. Now, more than 2,100 Hoosiers have lost their lives to the virus. 244 new cases were also reported, bringing the state's total to 37,623. More than 309,000 people have been tested for the virus. About 12% of those tests have come back positive. Marion County still leads the state with the most cases at 10,358 and 623 deaths. The Department of Health also says 13% of the state's ICU beds are being used by COVID-19 patients, with 38% available. 83% of the state's ventilators are also available.
Well, when it comes to reopening the state, Stage 4 of Governor Eric Holcomb's plan is projected to start on Sunday. Under that new phase, bars and clubs can open at 50% capacity. Movie theaters, bowling alleys, and similar facilities can also open at 50% capacity. Cultural, entertainment, and tourism sites like museums and zoos, those can reopen. The capacity for those not yet determined. Casinos can reopen with the approval of the Indiana Gaming Commission. Now, this is all subject to change, and Marion County, we know, has been behind in advancing to these different phases. Governor Holcomb's next update is scheduled for Wednesday. You can watch that here on RTV6.
Starting next week, IU Health will ease temporary visitor restrictions at all hospitals. That means one visitor per patient per day in inpatient areas. Each visitor will be screened and given a mask, which must be worn at all times inside the facility. Visitors must be at least 18. Patients who have tested positive for COVID-19 will not be allowed visitors.
Another major step forward for sports fans. The NFL and the NFL Players Association have sent out guidelines outlining procedures for the full reopening of their facilities. Protocols are focused on screening, testing, infection prevention, and treatment for COVID-19. Some of the most notable requirements are the reconfiguration of locker rooms to allow 6 feet between the lockers in accordance with social distancing guidelines. Teams are also encouraged to hold virtual meetings when possible. The league says team travel and other matters will be addressed at a later date. Kickoff for the season is set for September 10th. It is 5:45. Want to toss things over to Todd right now on this Storm Team 6 alert day. Todd, what can you tell us?
You know, we're talking about the impacts of a tropical system here in central Indiana, and this is pretty rare that we do it in June. A lot of times we get these tropical systems moving through the Midwest as we get later into the hurricane season. In fact, you have to go back to 2015 and Arlene to last impact central Indiana with a tropical system in the month of June. But here's what you can expect as Cristobal makes its way through the area. Very warm and muggy conditions going to set the stage for the potential for strong to severe storms later on this afternoon. Very windy conditions. That's even outside of any thunderstorms, and within the storms, a few isolated tornadoes will be possible. So as we work our way throughout the day today, temperatures will be coming up into the mid-80s. Probably not quite as warm as it was yesterday due to more in the way of cloud cover, but it's going to be more uncomfortable today because the humidity is going to be a lot higher than it was the past couple days. So if you haven't walked out the door yet, I think you'll certainly notice not so much the temperature, 71 degrees right now, but the humidity has come way up throughout the overnight hours. Our first little look at some rain making its way into parts of Illinois. We're still going to miss out on that band. That actual band you saw near Effingham is going over towards western Illinois. We have to wait for these feeder bands that are further to the south to start to lift its way to the north. And with a tropical system, a lot of times the heavier rainfall is going to be on the western side of it, the eastern side of it with those feeder bands that wrap around the center of circulation. That's where you deal with the storms and the potential for a few isolated tornadoes, because you have to remember with a hurricane, right, you have that big, huge circulation. And so as we have easy rotation with some of these cells, there could be a brief tornado making its way through the area. So this afternoon is when the storms are going to ramp up. So I think you're fine through at least the noon hour. But watch as some of these individual isolated storms will be rolling through central Indiana. So while it's kind of a line with this feeder band coming through, it's within that line there'll be some discrete cells that'll have the potential, again, to spin around a little bit and give us some brief isolated tornadoes. Probably not any long-lived tornadoes that stay on the ground for a long period of time. This kind of pattern, they more drop down, pick up, but obviously any tornado that touches down can cause some damage. They probably ramp up through the middle half of the afternoon into the early evening hours, and then the threat of severe weather will come down, working our way into the evening hours. And even overnight, there could be a few storms, but we're not looking at anything that is going to be super widespread or severe overnight. The slight risk encompasses most of central Indiana. If you're not in the slight risk, you're under the marginal risk. The main threat today is going to be the high wind. That is for everybody, even outside of those storms. As I mentioned, it's a very windy day for us. Tornadoes, the secondary threat. No real concern for flooding. Any storms that move through will go through very quickly. Maybe some tropical downpours briefly, but then they'll be on their way so fast that flooding will not be an issue for us. Now, fast forward to tomorrow, still some scattered showers, still a few storms in the forecast as well. And when the final front comes through tomorrow afternoon, it's not out of the question that there could be a second round of severe weather. This would probably be more of a damaging wind event for us. But once that front goes through, it ushers in a beautiful stretch of weather that is going to take us all the way through the weekend, all the way into next week with sunshine, lower humidity. The overnight lows are going to be very comfortable, but we have to get through a very active day today, especially this afternoon and evening with the windy conditions, again, for everybody, and isolated severe storms with the tornado potential for some. Lauren?
All right, Todd, thank you so much. Let's take a look right now at your commute. This is up on the northwest side, I-465 near I-865. We do have some orange barrels out there, but they're pulled back out of those travel lanes. As you can see, they're sort of in the middle of the road. You can see traffic is also traveling smoothly. No crashes or delays in this side of town to slow down your commute.
Bring an appetite for anything and a slice of imagination to this sandwich shop. Ahead this morning, Brad Brown shows you the unique twist to this dining experience.
Plus, we know it is a Storm Team 6 alert day, as Todd said, so you're going to want to keep an eye on the skies today. So download the Storm Shield app right now in your app store to get the latest from our meteorologist. We'll continue to keep you updated on your forecast when we come back after the break.
Internet and savings on wireless. Call or click today.
We've shown you several great sandwich places as part of our We're Open Indy series. One restaurant in Broad Ripple is really doing its own thing.
You're going to want to bring your appetite and also your imagination, and maybe your creation could end up on the menu. Our Brad Brown got a little taste of the action.
Just follow the steam to the heart of Broad Ripple, and you'll find an only-in-this-spot kind of sandwich.
So the steaming process, the bagel itself is soft and warm, and then everything inside is really warm and good. It makes it unique, and it's what really makes it good.
Ripple Bagel Deli opened 16 years ago. Todd's in-laws started the place, got the idea for a steamed bagel joint when their daughter, Todd's sister-in-law, was at Miami University in Ohio. They're welcoming diners back inside just last week after more than 2 months of carryout and curbside.
It's been difficult and challenging, but it's, I know that it's been a lot harder for more people and for different businesses, across every industry, really.
Now, here's the thing. If you have a tough time making decisions, the massive menu here will make your head spin. There are more than 100 regular sandwiches available, with nearly 20 bagel options, a dozen meats, veggies, cheeses, sauces, and spreads. Whew, here's the deal. If you can think of it, they can make it.
It's funny because a lot of people will come in and they'll look and look and look, and then they always say, I always look and look, but I always just get my favorite, and then some other people are like, they try something else all the time.
But if you're ready for anything, just dive in and take a chance.
Another cool thing is we have one called the Lottery, which is just whoever's back there making sandwiches makes, however they want to do it, and those are always a big hit too. It's a little, we joke that it's a risk, but everybody seems to always love them too.
And if your wild idea is good enough, it could earn a regular spot on the Ripple Bagel menu board.
Some combinations, when you first hear them, you think, oh my gosh, how does that, how are you going to like that? But it's funny because then you end up giving it a try, and it's like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty good. It worked. Our customers have been extremely loyal, but a lot of people have missed dining in and being able to kind of hang out and talk to people. So it's been nice to be able to accommodate those people as well, and also have the outdoor option too.
Working for you in Broad Ripple, Brad Brown, RTV6.
Okay, those make my bagel with jelly this morning look really lame. Ripple Bagel is open 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. Dine-in street-side patio seating for the next couple of weeks, and carry out as well.
My stomach is growling. I don't know if you guys can hear it in my microphone, but Brad does it every morning.
I've had a fair share of my Broad Ripple Bagel Deli. I've had a lot of those things on the menu, so they're all good. They're all good, but yeah, lots of choices, as Brad mentioned. All right, let's dive into the forecast here briefly for you. Here's our big player for the day today. This is what's left of what was Tropical Storm Cristobal. It's making its way towards St. Louis. That's the center of the storm. The heaviest of the rain is on the western side of the storm, so we avoid that. But we'll get some of these feeder bands coming through as we work our way into the afternoon hours. And as some of these bands come in, there will be the potential for severe weather today, including the chance of a few isolated tornadoes embedded in this line of rain that makes its way through. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's a couple tornado warnings later on this afternoon. These tornadoes, don't think the big, huge supercells that are going to stay on the ground for a long period of time. It's more of these quick pop down and lift up tornado types, but obviously that can cause some damage as well. The threat for severe weather should come to an end by about, I would say, 8, 9 o'clock tonight, and then we'll just continue with some scattered storms off and on throughout the remainder of the evening. A few more storms possible tomorrow, then a beautiful stretch of weather that's going to take us from Thursday all the way through the weekend. Cooler temperatures, a lower humidity, and low temperatures very comfortable as well. The time now is 5:57. You're watching Good Morning Indiana. Stay with us. Raphael joins us as we come out of the break at the top of the hour.